To talk about linear regression, we first need to talk about regression. Regression is a tool that models the relationship between independent variables and dependent variables and how they are correlated. Linear regression is a type of regression that is specifically a straight line and not a curve, and it uses the mathematical formula for a line. Linear regression can come in many different forms, some with just one independent variable to one dependent variable, and some with multiple independent variables to one dependent variable. Simple linear regression is the kind that only has one independent variable to one dependent variable. This can help us predict data over given intervals, but this is only applicable to certain periods of time typically. Moore's law, as you can see on the right, is one of these simple linear regressions that predicted every 2 years the amount of transistors on a processor will double. And this kind of gives us like landmarks and milestones that we need to follow. Multiple linear regression is a type of linear regression that uses multiple inputs to get a given output. So this is typically giving us a more accurate depiction of what is actually going on, because in most scenarios, you're going to have more than just one thing affecting your output. And machine learning is one tool that uses linear regression a lot. So for machine learning, it's essentially where you give programs inputs, a bunch of inputs, and they learn based on the output, and they're able to predict what's coming essentially. So what they've done is they've made a machine learning program that predicts the miles per gallon for cars based on its given inputs, like its weight, its horsepower, its brand, all that stuff. Now, some of the strengths of linear regression is a very simple form of regression analysis. So it can be done with very low power calculations on basically any computer. It doesn't need to be done on like a supercomputer to do thousands of calculations. It does not take very much time, similar to its low power consumption. Now, some of the weaknesses of linear regression, it can only be useful between certain parameters sometimes, so we can't use it to model all of our data. It can be very prone to outliers because our regression line is based on our data. If we have a few outliers, that will also move our regression line. And sometimes it can oversimplify scenarios where linear regression is not actually applicable.